Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Podcast. Josh Lander here with a Wednesday slate of NBA games, 11 to choose from as we have a little break in the NBA in-season tournament. Monday and Tuesday action was pretty fun, at least I thought so. Hopefully none of the naysayers are watching right now, but let's look at how we did on Tuesday after an abysmal Monday. Really happy to turn things around here with a 4-2 record on the night. 3-0 in the Playa props, and that's all I'm bringing you here in this one. 3 best bets. They're all player props, but we'll finish up the review here on Milwaukee same game parlay. We had Middleton 4+ boards. That cashed super late, only after I cried about it online, which is probably why it hit. A little reverse jinx there. We also had Brolo, Brooke Lopez 4+ boards, and Giannis Antetokounmpo at over 4+ assists. It was the 4x4x4 little same game parlay there for us that kicked us plus 162 on FanDuel. LeBron James also went over 25.5 if you laddered him up to 30. That was a success as well. I don't know why. Oh, yeah, and Kevin Durant. I don't know why I didn't start with that one. KD over 35.5 points and rebounds. He also made us sweat it out a bit until the fourth quarter. Went into that fourth quarter needing about 10 or 11 of them, I believe, and did creep those out for us at the very end. The Lakers won -1.5 there. They covered. Maybe you saw they barely covered because they sort of were the beneficiaries of a nice call from the refs at the end who gave them a timeout, despite the fact that they clearly didn't have possession of the ball. Say what you want. The Lakers are going to be in Vegas now, which is exactly what the NBA wanted. Conspiracy theories aside, we press on with 2 more losses in that Knicks game. Whatever. I'm not even getting into those. That was a terrible call. We're staying away from sides and totals here for a little bit so we can make sure we stay on our winning ways. Feeling a lot more comfortable with these player props. As you can see, 3-0 on the night, as I said, plus 3.2 units on the season now, 19-11 with the player props, and 8-8 with the sides and totals. So we'll look to stick here to the props for a bit and keep getting this record up into the black, not the red. And let's get into that here with our first pick, Mr. Spencer Dinwiddie. Not a guy that I've always loved to target. I'm going to be honest with you. Dinwiddie on a team full of dudes who sort of are interchangeable at times with the guards and the wings on this team since they traded KD and got rid of Kyrie as well. Now I really like the way that Spencer Dinwiddie is playing, and we have him in a great matchup against the Hawks. So to be clear, over 24.5 points and assists combined for Dinwiddie in this one. He's really turned into a playmaking point guard. The last 6 games, it's really stark how much of a difference there is in his facilitating rather than just scoring, although he is scoring plenty as well. He just played Atlanta, and it was the first game of this sort of 6-game streak of his where he's clearly taken the reins as the leader of this offense. He had 17 potential assists versus Atlanta 6 games ago. And since then, he's actually been averaging nearly 15 potential assists per game, which are up from the 10.5 that he was averaging in the previous 13 games or so. Most importantly for Spencer Dinwiddie and the Nets, he has the number 1 offensive rating in terms of on-off stats for this team. So when he's on the floor in the last 6 games especially, they've had 128 offensive rating. And when he's off the floor, obviously that drops precipitously. He's also had the second best offensive rating in terms of those on-off numbers for this team for the entire season. So they're clearly honing in, as Coach Jack Vaughn, on the fact that this is their point guard, and he needs to be, as he also makes other guys around him better, like Mikal Bridges, who's done a lot better things on offense, been a lot more efficient over the last 6 games as well, because of the fact that he has someone facilitating. He doesn't need to do everything off of the dribble directly. Now you get Atlanta, as I mentioned. Always love to get these inflated stats for guys playing the Hawks right now, who are one of the worst defensive teams. Make no mistake about it, in the league, bottom 5 easily. They also give up a lot of assists to point guards. Now, they're somehow pretty good at stopping point guards from scoring. I will say that's partly because their defensive tactic is once you get by a guy like Trae Young or any of the other wings on this Atlanta team, who are all just playing Olay defense, even DeJounte Murray, who used to be known somewhat as a defensive stopper when he was on the Spurs, not the case anymore. And he's going to get a heavy dose of all those guys who he's going to be able to get by and then decide if he wants to hit that floater or if he wants to kick out to shooters or throw that lob down low to Nick Claxton, which is who he's also dimed up a bunch over the last 6 games. Like I said, another person benefiting from the fact that Spencer Dinwiddie has been so good on offense as the true point guard of this team. So I'm going to take him. The assists are really high. It's at 7.5. I'm not scared of it, to be clear, but I do like the idea of being able to get a little bit of buffer with both the points and the assists in this one. Second best bet, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And I cannot in good conscience take an under on his points, although I thought about it. and I cannot in good conscience take an over on his points, although I thought about it. But I can take an under on his rebounds and assists at 11.5. And that's because he's going up against Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is going to actually probably help SGA score more so than he's going to help him get assists because he fouls a ton. And that's what we want when we take SGA points props is we want him going up against guys that are going to foul him. That is not going to be the case, or that's going to be the case in this one, which is why we're not taking the points. I'm just afraid of it against a really good Houston defense at home that's giving up less than 99 points per game when they play in their home building. I don't really want to mess with that, to be honest. I'll take an under because the assists I don't think are going to be there for him, specifically because Dylan Brooks defends him, will be fouling him and sending him to the free throw line, which he knows. It's also because Dylan Brooks has actually had a history of locking up SGA from the standpoint of limiting his assists and points, to be honest. In the last two that they played against each other, when Brooks was a member of the Grizzlies, he did lock down Shea a bit more than anybody else has really been able to. He's been very good against him. Granted, that Memphis defense was also really, really solid down low. And if anywhere there's a weakness in this Houston defense, it's definitely down low with Şengün getting the majority of those minutes at center. So all of that said, Shea's going to be able to finish at the rim. He's going to get fouled a lot. And this is a team that doesn't give up assists in the Rockets. They limit teams and they limit the point guard position to the fewest assists per game. And so I just think the fact that you combine Shea getting to the free throw line, it is Shai for the record, by the way, as according to him, Shai Gilgeous, we'll just call him SGA. According to SGA, we know he wants to get to the free throw line. We also know that the Rockets, like I said, are limiting assists, and he's gone under in 7 of his last 10 games with heavy correlation to the teams that he has gone under against being similar more so to the Rockets than the ones he went over. The 3 that he went over were all in the bottom 10 in terms of limiting assists to their opponents. And so the other 7, not even as good as Houston is in terms of those assists and the rebounds as well, where a very good, I'll say above average rebounding team for Houston, could be better, but still a very good rebounding team. They do give up a lot of rebounds to point guards, but the main thing to take away here is Dylan Brooks is going to be guarding the point guard. And normally that isn't going to be the case because Houston limits shooting guards to the fewest points per game in the league because Dylan Brooks is all over them, guarding them the whole game. This is going to be a situation where he switches on to the point guard, as we've seen him do whenever he faces the Oklahoma City Thunder and SGA, and that's going to be the case in this one as well. All right, third bet here. For those of you looking on YouTube, hopefully you enjoy this picture of Klay Thompson coming in to score points for us because we're taking Klay. Old man Klay, whatever you want to call him, over 16.5 points. No, he's not aging gracefully, but also we all freaked out at the beginning of this season, forgetting that he does this every season. Like literally every season, Klay Thompson does not play well until December comes around. It's something that I talked about a little bit. I didn't really go into Klay on the Coast to Coast podcast because I wasn't really trying to bet on him. And fading him is sad, to be honest. But either way, it's something to talk about now, which is he's turned it around the same way that he has in the previous, well, really since he came back from injury and the 2 seasons before he went out for a couple years with a barrage of injuries, as we saw with the knee and the Achilles. This is now time for him to turn it around back to where he normally is. He's up to 45% from 3 in his last 6 games. In the previous 13 games, he was shooting 33% from deep. Somewhat interestingly, he's only at 41.5% from the field now and in those previous 13 games. So he's really just not shooting well inside the 3-point line. But once he gets up to nearly 4 threes a game, now we're feeling good about the points at 16.5. We also like the fact that he's getting more free throws, which is not something I put up on these notes here, but I do want to make clear he's averaging nearly 3 more free throws per game in those last 6. So a 90 whatever percent career shooter, right? A guy well over 90 for his, well, right around 90 from the free throw line for his career. Granted, he doesn't get there very often, but if he's going to get there 4 times, he's always going to make at least 3 of those. And now we've got another 3 points on top of those 12 I just told you he was hitting from deep. And we're just roughly 1 bucket away from getting over 16.5 points. All of that said, we get a little bit of inflation as well because we're playing the Trailblazers, who have been better than you might think on defense. By the way, if you're looking at those stats, they're a pretty good 3-point defense, which I know that goes against the way Clay's going to score, but he loves playing this team. And there's a few guys out. The rotation is going to be thin for them as well in this one. We actually don't even know if Anthony Simons is going to play, but Jeremy Grant's not going to play. That's going to be helpful as well for Clay being able to get buckets. So he likes playing Portland. Over in the last 5 times he's played them, this team is allowing, the Blazers are allowing the 8th most points to shooting guards per game as well. So really good spot for Clay to keep the streak going, because he's gone over in 5 of the last 6. And 5 of the last 6 is the only good stat there for him, because really before those 6 games, 14 points per game, 33% from deep, like all bad. But like I said, that is a lot of the sort of way that Clay does things, man. He just sucks in November and then he turns it around in December. And I think that's what we're going to see moving forward here for this month. So quick review of how we are betting on Wednesday night here with 11 games. Dinwiddie over 24.5 points and assists as the true PG of this Nets team moving forward. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander under 11.5 rebounds and assists. Love you, SGA. Happy to watch you get 30 points, but don't think you're getting the rebounds and assists. And Clay, baby, another Clay game here. So over 16.5 points for Mr. Thompson. And that is all the time that I have for you in this one. Appreciate you all following along. We continue to grow that subscriber count. Let me know what you guys are thinking of the picks. I'm going to be throwing some pretty interesting stuff on Twitter if you follow me at JL Boogie. I want to give you guys these cheat sheets that I see all over the place on the internet, but I want to give you a slightly different cheat sheet, because the only one I'm seeing is defensive positions, defenses against specific positions. How does the Hawks rank against shooting guards points per game? How many assists per game do the Hawks give up to opposing centers? Like, all of that stuff is helpful. Don't get me wrong. I would never trash those stats. I just want to give you something a little bit different to help you think about these games a little differently. I'll be showing you the averages for points per game. I want to show you some home splits. I want to show you some rest and back-to-back stuff and how that's impacting spreads and trends and all the rest of it. So I'll be putting that stuff out on social media. Try to get them into these videos when I can, but they're a lot of work, I'll be honest with you. And I just want to make sure I get these picks out to you guys as soon as I can as well, so you're able to get ahead of some of the info and everything you need. That is all the time once again. So until I see you next, happy betting.